Rama, Rama were the only words filled in hearts of Ayodhya Nagari. There was not one day that would go without taking Lord's name. From morning to night, their words and hearts were filled with Shree Rama. Not every day would be a happy day, but for people of Ayodhya and people of Bharata, their eternal bliss of happiness was lost when the devil entered the lands of gods. They did not lose just happiness, but they lost themselves. They became slaves for their lives to the founder of the inhumane dynasty in the history of the world, Mughals. Babur was not just a devil, but he was one of the worst personalities anyone could ever imagine of. He was a real murderer and criminal of the largest Holocaust in the history of the world. The Holocaust, which was done by Hitler, was no match to Babur's. He built a pillar of heads of sages, sannyasis, or anyone who rebelled against him. He was such a person who had no humanity, and he was no less than a monster. He was a child molester. He was addicted to drugs, and most importantly, he had his eyes on boys of young ages or boys who had no beards. He was such a jerk that he used to abuse, molest small boys for his sensual pleasures. In his biography, he writes on such a boy who he fell in love with. How he was lost in that immature boy's love. Disgusting, isn't it? Babri Masjid was built over destruction of most decorated temple in India, Shree Ram Mandir. That Babur destroyed it, not just to show his power, but he wanted to build a monument for his homosexual desires for small boys. After Babri Masjid was built, he used his sex slaves for his sexual desires. He named Babri after his homosexual sex slave Babri. After the fall of Ram Mandir, it was like all hope destroyed for Hindus. They taught themselves to be slaves to this inhumane dynasty until
हार नहीं मानूंगा, राग नहीं ठानूंगा, काल के कपाल पर लिखता जाता हूँ, ये क्या था? सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो फैसला किया है उसका अर्थ मैं निकालता हूँ। वो कार सेवा रोकता नहीं है। सचमुच में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने हमें अधिकार दिया है कि हम कार सेवा करें।
We Hindus have suffered enough for 5 decades and not anymore. Today, on the day of demolition of Babri Masjid, that is the 6th December, should be celebrated as Bhagwa Day. A day to remember the leaders who gave hope for the new millennia. A day to remember the sacrifices made, and a day to remember that bad days won't last forever. Let's celebrate today as second Deepavali. Jai Shree Ram.